Well, that's a page. Whose page is it, and what else is on that page?
This is a page at, the address is niu.edu, edu meaning it's a school,
Yeah.
NIU is Northern Illinois, I imagine.
Sure.
It then says it's in a folder called Departments, so it's pages that each department has, and this is the document called March Kudos. So they put out a little memo, I assume once a month or once a week.
Of what their faculty have done off campus.
Exactly. It lists 5 or 6 different things. It's here. It's called Northern Today. It's created by the Office of Public Affairs. It seems to be a daily publication. And it mentions that somebody else was in a National Science Foundation event, and somebody else has been appointed to a state advisory committee, and so on. These are the kind of things you find out there, and if you're willing to spend a little time searching, you often find more information than you expected.
That's fascinating. The secret of all professors is that whenever they get a new book that's halfway near their own realm, the first thing they look at is the index to check their own name.
That's right.
And you could absolutely superindulge yourself with just that sort of narcissistic searching on the World Wide Web and on the internet.
I'd be lying if I said I hadn't done it. I think we all have.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But now then, on to Soviet military. That's your next assignment as we pause yet once again for some commercials. And we will be getting onto the phones in about 15 minutes. There are all sorts of questions that aficionados and adepts have, I'm sure, concerning internet use and concerning technology and techniques and so on. People far more sophisticated than the host of this program and the expert waiting for you. So any questions you've got, if you are a tyro who knows about all this stuff and you just want to get some valuable professional assistance or information, by all means give us a call on 591-7200. However, if you are essentially a naif who barely knows what the internet is and has never yet tried it, but is attracted to the possibility.
And that'll record over what I'm doing now. Okay. So stop, I can hit
available, and the people with us tonight, namely Neil Chase and Jennifer Deese and Corey May, are all very valuable sources of information and advice, and they are waiting for your call. So, for any and all such purposes, 591-7200. The lines are open and available to you. 591-7200. Get your calls in as quickly as you'd like, and we'll be with you shortly. But first, we pause for the... That's a computer tutoring business here in Chicago. Jennifer Deese, who is the editor and publisher of Digital Chicago Magazine, a very valuable resource for sophisticates and for beginners. And Neil Chase, who is, as a matter of fact, married to Jennifer Deese and is professor at the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern, where he specializes in internet and computer and, for that matter, electronic journalism, and you do a number of courses all covering areas of that sort. And we are tonight talking about internet for beginners, or internet, for that matter, for intermediates or sophisticates. Our phone lines are open. 591-7200 is the number, 591-7200. Just a quick report from Neil as to what you found about Soviet military.
We tried poking around for things that would mention Soviet military in Edinburgh. We found, for instance, a march, the military Edinburgh tattoo.
Yeah.
So the words Edinburgh and military triggered there, but the word Soviet
swirling
wasn't in.
bagpipe band and a professional military performance.
Too bad there was no audio of that one. That would have been good. We found something that's a list of sites in the United States at which Soviet missiles are aimed, which seems kind of funny because the president told us the other day there are no Russian missiles aimed at us.
Well, how long can a thing be left on the internet? That may go back
that's the thing here. It could be a couple of years old, but as we looked over this, it actually looks like it's probably part of the script of a video game about military things in which there's a Soviet-American war. And that's why you have to be real careful. We tell the students, the journalism students, to treat this just as you would a source in your journalism. Who is it? Who are they? Do you trust them?
Now, we've got another assignment for you. We've been talking about this. There is audio available on the internet now, just as there are visual things, movie-like, or videos and so on. And you wanted to get some audio. What was your notion as to what we might dig out?
There actually are some radio stations out there broadcasting, and we decided it'd be a bad idea to pick up somebody else's station and put it on yours. But
I think probably wouldn't be the best idea.
Probably not a great idea.
For all I know, we are broadcasting on the internet, but no one is...
Or somebody's stealing your signal and sending it out there for all you know, which also could be happening. What we're tracking down is a couple different things. The convention last week obviously provided a lot of audio possibilities, and our friends at the Tribune on their internet site collected quite a bit about the convention. And what we're doing now is heading for the convention stuff. It'll just take us a little clicking to get there.
All right, and while you're looking for that, let's talk about a few other things. Let me again repeat that the phone number is 591-7200, And 312 is the area code if you're calling long distance. One feels a little mired in ancient time by inviting people to contact us on this old-fashioned technology, the telephone, when I suppose they could contact us through their computers with some email or jump into some sort of temporary chat room we might set up. But we'll stay with the phone for now. We haven't talked about cost of equipment. If I were starting from scratch, Jennifer, what would I need to buy and what would it cost me?
Well, you can spend a little or you can spend a lot, but you could get a multimedia-ready computer for about $2,000, and that's really what you're looking for. You need adequate RAM memory to work with. You need some hard drive space for all of the internet programs you're going to want
For
to use.
$2,000, I'm all set up and ready to go?
Pretty much so, yeah.
But then I have to learn how to do all of this stuff.
Right. I mean, that's not including any software that you would purchase or any add-ons. But
What sort of software would I want to purchase?
well, you need probably a web browser. The most popular is Netscape or Microsoft Internet Explorer. Those you can get copies for free, at least to try, and they're pretty low cost after that. Maybe $45, something like that. You want an email program. You can do email from within those web browsers, but most people like to have a separate email program. And there are other things.
So to get properly equipped, I'm going to have to spend how much additional on software?
Not a lot. It's pretty negligible,
$200.
considering the cost of the computer and the
So for $2,500, say, I'm all set up with everything I would
you could
need.
use that as a number to work with, sure.
But I still have to learn how to do all of this. Now, actually, Corey, you're in the business of teaching people how to become facile.
Yes, I am.
And to use these systems.
Yes, I am.
Suppose you came and gave me lessons, and you would come to me, wouldn't you?
Yes, the way we do our computer teaching is we go to the homes of the individuals who want to be trained.
Why not have them come to some central site where you can teach a whole bunch of them?
Well, the main reason for that is computers are different, and the way they're equipped is different, and it's easier for most people to learn on the computer that they're going to use. If a computer is configured differently, when they get home after a class, they may not recognize the screen or the software that they're using because it may be configured for a different kind of look and feel, if you will, which is a computer expression for software, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It depends upon what their intentions are to do with the computer, how much time they may need to be trained. A lot of computer use today has gotten very simple. The basics of the Mac operating system or of Windows 95, once you get into it, once you start playing with it, are really pretty simple. That's really what the differences between a few years ago and today really are. Computers have gotten easier and easier to use. So it doesn't take that much training. If you want to do depending upon what you want to do with the computer. The internet is a little bit more complicated than using a word processor or something like that, but if you start out using an online service as opposed to going direct into the internet, it's easier. If, for example, you start out with America Online or Compuserve, their software is very simple to use and to set up. When you want to get more directly into the internet to possibly get a faster connection, it gets a little more complicated, but it really doesn't take that long to learn.
Well, if I start from nowhere and you come to my house and you get me started, how much by way of tutoring will I need before I'm ready to solo?
Well, you may be able to use your computer before I even get there. Assuming you buy the computer at one of the mass merchandising stores or you order it from one of the mail order sources, a lot of times they come with software already on them. They may come with word processing software. A lot of them are coming with Microsoft Office Suite, which includes all the software that most people are going to need for some time unless they have some specific interest, besides possibly a web browser if that's what they're going to want to do. Some people are the kind of person who like to fool with it and try and make it work themselves. Other people need to have more assistance in the process. I'd say 2 or 3 hours is probably all that most people are going to need to effectively use the computer.
If they want to get more detailed and get more involved and, for example, create web pages or something along those lines, there's more involved in that, and it may take more
That's
time.
something we haven't talked about. Suppose I did want to create a web page. Suppose I persist in my interest in the history of deterrence theory, particularly on the other side of the Cold War while it was raging. And suppose I want to join in chat or in information exchange with other people interested in the same subject the world over. Can I set up something to bring them in and to...
Well, most internet accounts, and that includes a commercial online service account, will give you space to make a personal home page or web page at no extra charge. And
So I can start a web page on the history of Soviet deterrence theory, or Soviet deterrence.
whatever your personal interest might be.
Yeah. And how do I get people to... how do I make them aware of the fact that this web page exists?
Well, you can contact people whose interests are similar to yours and ask to trade links with them. I'll put a link to your site on mine if you'll put a link to your site on mine, on yours. And people do that, reciprocal links, and that's the way they all build
And
it.
then you may want to get the word out through yet some other source that this new website exists.
Right. The search engines, in addition to searching on their own for sites, you can also submit the address of your site to them, and they'll then include you in that index so that when someone's looking for pages like yours, they'll find you.
I hold in my hand, I hold in each hand, a separate issue of Digital Chicago, the magazine that Jennifer Dees edits. This appears 6 times a year, does it?
Right.
Bi-monthly. Does bi-monthly mean every 2 months, or does it mean twice a month?
It depends on who you're talking to, but we publish 6 times a year.
And what do you do in this? It's very handsomely produced. You've got an article here about the $18 million man, a local figure named, what is his name?
Casey Cowell. He is the CEO of U.S. Robotics, which is one of our most successful high-tech companies
Located
here.
in Skokie, and he makes $18 million a year.
Right.
And he was once a young fellow at the University of Chicago.
That's right. That's right. So we'll profile people in the community who are doing creative, innovative things with computers, with digital media. With our current issue, September, October, we have Illinois Net Day on the cover. That's a project where volunteers get together to help wire the schools for internet access. So various things like that. We have a lot of how-to articles, and we might introduce you to software that would let you create your own web page.
Yes, there's a great and constant expansion of the software market, isn't there? There seems to be a software package for just about everything. What are some of the most unusual software packages you've encountered?
Unusual.
Or eccentric, or...
Some of the most surprising ones have been the ones that are the most simple, as in turn your computer into a telephone. So you no longer have to make long-distance calls, but you and someone else can use it as a telephone. Things that actually make perfect sense. You have the internet, your computer can play sound, their computer can play sound, but somebody had to stop and think, gee, this could replace the telephone. And once they did, those kind of things become...
Does that software package enable you to do all your telephone calling?
It enables you to talk to anybody who has the same thing on the other end.
Yeah, you got to be linked to
maybe not all your
something
calls,
with the same equipment.
Right, but that one relative you talk to all the time who runs up the phone bill and makes you the subject of the phone company commercial.
And if he's located in Kuala Lumpur, so long as he sets up, the two of you can talk all day long,
all day, all night,
for no special cost.
As much as you want, given the limitations of the technology. The network is, because it's the internet, you're going through a lot of different connections, and things may not sound quite as clear as when you're on a real phone call. But for some people,
not even close in most cases.
Yeah.
What are some of the other unusual software packages? What's on the market lately?
Some of the most interesting things actually are software that's designed for children.
Oh.
To be some of the most that's out there. Of course, there's specialty software for manipulating photographic images and that sort of thing for professional people, but the kind of software that's being created for children is quite incredible. They're highly animated, highly graphic, of course, because that's what's going to draw the kids' attention, and very educational in a lot of cases. There are programs that will teach children to read. There are programs that will teach children music. Those programs also tend to be some of the most difficult programs in terms of demands on the computer. And it's interesting, and people are surprised to find out that it's the children's software that drives the industry as much as anything else, maybe even more than anything else, because of the multimedia facets of that software, it requires a more and more powerful computer as time goes on.
By the way, a technological question or an equipment question. Exactly how is software sold? What physical form does software take, and how does it physically work within the computer?
Well, how it's sold, that kind of leads us back to the internet in an interesting way. One of the most popular uses of the internet is actually downloading software from computers located anywhere. And in fact, a lot of people in the industry think that this kind of distribution is really going to change the software industry completely.
When you download it, does it go on some permanent disk, or?
It just comes right into your computer's hard disk. And so instead of having a software package where there's a big bulky box...
Yeah, you're holding one up now that says...
this is actually the Apple Internet Connection Kit.
Mm-hmm.
It has software that lets you use the internet and get signed up. But still, most of these software packages that you see in your local computer store have a lot of filler in them. They really don't fill up the box with the little disk and the slim manual. And so you can make it a more efficient way to distribute software if people can just find their way to your web page, for example, click a button and download the software right onto
Well, how do you then collect money from them?
Credit cards, and there are also schemes for virtual cash payments where you can sign up with a company and sort of be anonymous, not anonymous, but so that your credit card information can't be tracked.
Apart from butterflies and Soviet deterrence theory, one of my true interests in life is what is commonly called classical music. And good performances, and particularly historically interesting performances that may go back 30 or 40 years. What's available? I suppose there's a great deal just on the internet that will give me a lot of information. Is there any software package that's relevant to that interest?
There are programs out there that are based on CD-ROM, the same kind of technology out there that you use for your CD or stereo in your home, that will have high-quality
Could I download
stereo
performances
capability.
onto a CD-ROM disc?
You can download MIDI files and different formats of audio files that you may be able to play on your computer. The quality of that is going to depend upon as much on your computer as it is on the file itself.
On its sound quality?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sound files tend to be very large also.
Right.
So that's not usually the kind of thing that you would download, say, a whole song or a whole performance.
Speaking of audio, and Neil has been on an audio chase. Neil Chase has been chasing on.
That's me.
What have you found?
Well, we're doing something that everybody has to do. It's probably a very realistic experience, and that is that the sounds on the Tribune site were recorded using a certain piece of software, one that I thought I had on my little portable computer here and don't. So what I've done is followed the Tribune's instructions, which say if you get here and you can't hear the sounds, go to this other website where the sound company makes the program available, download it into your computer, as Jennifer just described, and then install it in your computer, restart your computer, and you'll be able to hear the sounds. So as we go through the next few minutes here, we'll be doing that process. And it really is a good explanation.
You're downloading it. I see Dick. Do I see Dick Tracy? No. What does that say?
QuickTime. It says QuickTime, which is another piece of software we're also bringing
I
at
was
the same
thinking of
time.
Dick Tracy, which is, of course, part of the Tribune Syndicate. And
probably was an early precursor of the Internet. It'll be on your wrist before long.
right, Dick Tracy wrist television set.
Yeah. But what we're doing is picking up a piece of software that the Tribune folks recorded their sounds with, so that once we get the piece of software in, it shows how easy the Internet is to use.
And do we know yet what's coming up by way of audio?
They've recorded a couple of the major speeches, Hillary Clinton, Al Gore.
Well, maybe we'll hear that before we're done then, as you are downloading it and storing it right now. For now, let us go to the telephones. 591-7200, the number, 591-7200. The area code 312, if you are calling long distance. And there's one spot available on the board at the moment. One listener, caller got tired of waiting, so that's available to you. If you're not getting through, then do, of course, continue to try, especially after we say goodnight to some prior caller. And here is the first. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, sir.
A couple of questions. I'll try to make them brief, and one's kind of a smart question, one's kind of a stupid question. Maybe I should start with the stupid one, quote, stupid one first, because Milt kind of asked about something, and you guys kind of... The same question as I have. When you talk about downloading a piece of software, do I have a disk? Does it go on the machine and disappear? Does it come, when you say you get your machine and it's filled with some software, does that mean it's already on the disk? In other words, there's no physical disks, floppy disks that are inside, they're hidden away, right?
sometimes when you get software that comes with your computer, that comes as part of the package, there are disks that come along with it, so that if something were to happen with to the software on your computer, you'd be able to reinstall it. But more and more, the computer companies are not including disks to save cost, and they request or give you an apparatus or a program actually that you can save them onto disk yourself, so that you can reinstall it if it becomes necessary. But
so you're saying it comes on the disk, the hard drive?
In most cases, when you buy packages along with your computer, they come already on your hard drive.
Okay. Now, Jennifer changed the name of her magazine from Mac Chicago, which I originally bought because I'm a graphics person, and I thought that was the computer that I wanted, and then went to digital. Does that mean that Mac is going down the tubes? And I hate to start something, but I sure would like to try to figure out what's going to happen in the future, and I'll just listen in on what you say.
Absolutely not. I still have an all Macintosh office, and I'm a hardcore Mac fan myself. Going to Digital Chicago was not in any way moving away from the Macintosh, but it was moving toward a world in which the platform is less important. When you look at the website through Windows, or if you look at a website through a Macintosh, it basically looks the same. Even Apple is making all of its core technologies like QuickTime, which Neil is about to use, for Windows as well as Macintosh. It's a world in which we really want to be able to exchange information electronically with people, no matter what kind of computer they're using at their client end, if you will. And our readers, who tend to be people who are graphic designers, they're in corporate communications, that sort of thing, are increasingly finding themselves called on to prepare materials that will play on either the Mac or the Windows side. So we're just moving toward that.
Sir, thank you for the call. I have some Apple stock. Not much, but I've got some, had it for a while. Should I hold on to it?
I've got Apple stock too, and we've been buying more because I think it's about to go way up.
They are coming
But
back.
I'm not a stock person, so don't take my advice on
but
that.
I'm just curious about it. There was speculation a while ago that they might just about be out of the business shortly.
Well, I think they're going to be a smaller company, but a more profitable one. I just got back from Macworld Expo in August, and I was very encouraged by the new CEO, Gil Amelio, and I think he's got a good plan for the future. I would keep my eye on Apple. I think they're going to do very well.
And here's the next caller. You are on the air. Good evening.
Yeah, hi. You mentioned earlier about how easy it is for a 6-year-old because they don't have the fear. Well, I'm 48, so you can imagine what my questions are going to be. I'm becoming very frustrated because we just had Netscape installed at work, and my company has encouraged us to use the internet. And it seems to happen like 2, 3, 4 times a day where I'll click on the Netscape and come up to our home page, and then I try to go into something like Alta Vista, like you mentioned, or Yahoo or something, and I get this message back that says error. And I'm told that just means that the internet is busy. There's too many users on it.
What kind of error is it? Do you remember what it says?
I'm trying to remember. I wish I could remember what it said exactly.
The internet is a very busy place, as you can imagine, with the numbers of people that are on there.
When this message comes back, you can't use it, though. I mean, you have to, quit and then go on sometime later and sign back on.
If you're getting a fatal error in the program itself, if it's actually shutting down Netscape, there's a couple of possibilities.
But it doesn't shut it down. It's just you can't go anywhere from
right,
the error.
It freezes up.
Yeah.
You're using a PC or
Macintosh?
It's one of those things where because of the nature of the internet, there are so many things between your Macintosh and the place you're going on the net. There's your connection through your office network into someplace in your office building where you meet up with the Ameritech phone system, and through the phone system out to probably an internet service provider, from them out to this backbone that is the internet. So it's sometimes hard to track down what it is. Sometimes it's as simple as the network that's set up in your office is too busy or is not connected, doesn't have enough horsepower. Other times it could be the site you're going to look at doesn't exist for some reason. Somebody's unplugged the computer. Remember when you're looking at the internet, you're looking at millions of computers around the world, and somebody may have turned theirs off.
Well, I've been thinking of getting it for my home computer, one of the internet services, but it's so frustrating to try and use it at work that I'm thinking, this doesn't work.
Do you have a system administrator or somebody who helps you at the...
Yeah, that's what I'm told by them, that they say the system is just busy. There's too many users right now.
Okay, the kind of error that you're getting could very well be just a system busy kind of error, in which case there really isn't anything wrong with the program. It's just you've just run into a roadblock where too many users, either in your system or on the internet at large at that moment, are preventing you from getting through.
So it could be that our system at work isn't big enough to handle all the people from our place who want to get on. It really has nothing to do with the internet itself.
That's very possible. We have the same situation in our Washington campus right now where we have 40 students trying to share 5 connections, which wasn't enough, so we're going to put them all on. But you've touched on something that is very important. One, that your home connection will be much better because only you will be using it. But also, a lot of
I didn't know that. Okay, that's good to know. Okay.
As long as you get an account with an internet provider that has enough phone lines to get you in, you'll be the only one using it, and you'll have a better chance of getting on. A lot of companies are missing the opportunity right now to connect to the internet because one company with 40 or 50 people in the same office or room can connect them all much more easily and at a lower cost per machine than it might take for you to connect your home machine.
We have 6,000 people just on our campus. I don't know how many people are using the Netscape.
Probably more than they originally intended. It has grown so fast, they probably set it up for the 5 people who are interested, and all of a sudden there's 5,090 people who are interested, and time for an upgrade.
Well, thank you, sir, for the call.
Thank you very much.
What happens at a place like the University of Chicago or at Northwestern, where indeed there are computers all over, PCs all over the place with access to the internet? Do you get that same kind of overload?
You do during a growing phase where you're trying to grow from a smaller connection to a bigger one. The way the internet works, if you think of it as one wire running around the world, people can plug into that wire at different sizes. You can get a very big plug into that wire for tens of thousands of dollars, which is what Northwestern does. But then all of the 10,000 plus students and all the faculty and staff have access to it. One person at home for $20 a month can get a connection that is a very small connection for one computer. So if you have the right connection, you can do it.
By the way, before we go back to the phones, there's a fascinating story that we haven't even touched upon, and that is the origins of the internet. It's commonly, a new book has just appeared, which reached me. It's probably not the first to attempt this, namely the history of the origins and the development of the internet. Apparently, it goes back some 30 or 40 years, does it not?
Right.
And it was a military system.
Right. The idea was if the bombs came, they wouldn't wipe out all the computers at one time. That would be distributed computer information. And we're reaping the benefits of that now because we have a backbone across the country in which big universities and other hubs connect to that backbone established by the government.
And the first movement beyond the military was indeed into the university world.
Absolutely.
How did that happen exactly?
Well, the information that was being sent around was technical information, and there was the same need for communicating between universities, technical information, so that professors or whomever could communicate between universities and pass the same kind of information around. So it was a natural step to go to universities.
But the internet, as we've been discussing...
No, it doesn't. I can type in Go Internet, and that takes me to things that will describe what the internet is. But it doesn't actually, I've read through all of those, and nothing actually says push this button to get to the internet.
Why don't you try Go Internet Access?
Okay.
You might also, there's a find command in Compuserve, right, where you can say find and ask for anything related to the topic you're looking for.
Yeah.
So you might try that as well.
Any progress?
We may just get a call from somebody who does use Compuserve giving us the answer in a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm afraid we have to move on, sir.
Thank you.
We thank you.
Good luck to you.
And perhaps we will get an answer on the phone. 591-7200 is the number. How are we doing on the voice material that we're looking for?
Well, we got all the pieces, but for some reason it's not quite working, which happens sometimes. Give us a second, we'll see if we can't figure out why.
Back to the drawing board, and we'll go back to the telephones. 591-7200, good evening.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm calling from way out in the country.
Where's that?
Central Illinois.
All right.
Down near Bloomington. Hi, guys.
Hello.
I was interested in your discussion earlier about the future of the internet and how some of the developments, how and when some of the developments will happen. But I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more, maybe in the short term, about some internet delivery system options that we may not have now, but we'll be hearing about soon. And I'll hang up.
All right, we thank you, ma'am, for the call.
Currently, there's modem access to the internet. That is what most people are using. The speed of the modem depends upon how good your communication by modem is, depends upon the speed of the modem. a minimum modem connection today is a 14.4, which is a 14,400 baud modem, but we recommend a 28.8 baud modem for connection to the internet because there's so much information that needs to be sent back and forth. After that, you have an ISDN connection, which is a 56 kilobyte connection.
I think up to 112.
Up to 112, which is many times faster than a normal modem connection. A T1 connection is a faster connection, which corporations use so that they have a larger bandwidth, which just means that more people can connect to the internet at the same time. In the near future, I believe TCI and a couple of other cable companies are going to offer cable access to the internet, which is going to be another magnitude faster and another magnitude more, you'll be able to get information that much more efficiently.
They're trying that already in a couple of local schools.
Right, it has been tried and they are testing it. There's also a satellite link connection, which is another option that is going to be available soon. Those connections are significantly more expensive at this point, at least, than a telephone connection. But they are the future. That's what we're going to see in the next 2 years or 3 years as far as better connections to the internet. And as more and more people get involved in the internet, those kind of connections are going to become more and more important because the internet is going to become more and more crowded and it's going to be more and more difficult. You're going to be sharing bandwidth with so many more people that information is going to move more slowly, so you're going to need a faster connection to be able to get it. So the future, there's good and bad news in terms of that for the future of the internet, but I think it's going to continue to grow, and they're going to find better delivery systems for it.
You're finding a lot of things coming together too when they try to sell you a digital satellite dish for your roof to get all the TV channels now through cable.
Correct.
They say, by the way, at the bottom of the brochure it says, and there's a lot more to come here. And one of those things, for instance, is internet content. So you find all these different people fighting for how they're going to deliver it to you, which should end up in everything being cheaper and faster and easier to get.
There should be more and more potential sources for internet access. In our January issue, we did a table that showed all the internet service providers we could find and get complete information from in this area, and there were about 48 of those. There are many, many more now. When you're talking 8 months later, than we were able to list there. If we would take many pages to list all the providers, and at the same time, many of the ones that we listed in January have gone out of business because they were small mom and pop type operations, and now we've seen AT&T come into the game with its WorldNet service. All of the telephone companies are going to be offering internet access. The cable companies will be offering it. It'll be, you'll have many choices about where to get it, and that means it'll be cheaper as well, and for higher bandwidth.
We've now got a few lines available. If you've been trying to reach us and being frustrated for the last hour or so, do try again quickly. We've got 2 or 3 lines available for your use. 591-7200 is the number. Area code 312 if you're calling long distance, then 591-7200. And we'll pause for our last round of commercials and then directly back on 591-7200.
Summer is a time for vacationing. Let Pheasant Run Resorts Theater take you away to romance at an English castle with Camelot, or on a wild ride of the imagination with Rat Dog, Princess Toad, and the Pea. A place where romantic splendor, chivalry, and honor still exist. Don't miss Lerner & Lowe's Tony Award-winning Camelot at Pheasant Run Dinner Theater. Witness the most tragic love story in history as Lancelot becomes King Arthur's most trusted knight while stealing the heart of the king's beloved Queen Guinevere. Before Camelot, dine on a feast fit for a king. And kids, don't miss the triumphant return of Rat Dog, Princess Toad, and the Pea. Will there be a wedding or a beheading? When evil Queen Crabella plans a royal wedding for her son Rat Dog, Princess Toad and their imagination must help out a prince and a pea. After the show, kids can enjoy a special children's brunch with the cast. Call 708-584-MEGA for tickets. Overnight packages are available and parking is free. Call 708-584-MEGA to reserve your summer getaway at Pheasant Run Theater today.
All right, the next lot for sale is a rare painting by the famous Vincent van Gogh.
Disposable income. No one has more than the subscribers of Crane Chicago Business.
Let us please start the bidding at 60. 70 million.
In fact, over 25% of all Cranes subscribers are millionaires.
Do I have 75? Lovely.
Now, we're not saying that Cranes will improve your art collection, but it will give you the most information on Chicago business today.
100 million. Do I hear 100 million?
And then you just might not have to worry when you scratch your nose at an auction.
Sold for $100 million. Excellent. Thank you.
Cranes, Chicago business, where the who's who read what's what.
Who are Chicago's top movers and shakers in business? Find out this week at Crane's annual Who's Who in Chicago Business issue. Meet nearly 500 of the area's best-known, most influential leaders in business, politics, and culture. Don't miss this directory of Chicago's most powerful executives. Plus, was the convention a landslide for Mayor Daley in the city? Cranes recaps the week. Get this week's Cranes.
Here's a piano lesson from Carnes Music. What's the name of the piano that's performed on at Ravinia, taught on at Northwestern University, and relied on at the Lyric Opera? Yamaha. Now, there's a lesson in that. And what's the name of Chicago's #1 dealer of fine Yamaha pianos? Carnes Music. There's a lesson in that, too. When organizations that can choose any piano choose Yamaha, it's because Yamaha delivers the workmanship, the superior sound, and the long-term durability that great musical institutions expect. And when over 10,000 Chicagoans who could choose any piano dealer choose Carnes, it's because Carnes delivers the expert knowledge and the individual service that customers deserve. So the lesson is this. For Yamaha Grands, Uprights, Digitals, and Disclavier player pianos, the only name you need to know is Carnes Music. Downtown at the Chicago Music Mart and 3 convenient suburban locations. Call toll-free 1-888-638-1000 for the location nearest you. You haven't checked out pianos until you've checked out Carnes.
Get everything you need to start your day with Chicago's #1 morning show, The Bob Collins Show. Tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on Radio 720 WGN. And now the conversation continues on Extension 720 from Radio 720 WGN. Here's Milt Rosenberg.
Back to the phones in a minute. A personal query, and this involves some personal information, which I usually don't share much of. However, I announce with some pride I am a grandfather for the first time only about a week ago. We will be going to see my son and his wife and our new grandson in a few weeks. My son has, in the last year or two, become an internet surfer and is very active on the internet, and indeed it serves his own professional work rather well. His little grandson is going to grow up in the kind of household I did not grow up in, and indeed the kind of household my son did not grow up in. It's going to be not merely a totally computerized world around him, but it's a rather computerized household. Should one look at that simply with joy and pleasure that he's got a new technology available to him, or are there possibly any traps, any concerns that ought to be activated as well?
In terms of the internet, we have to remember that the internet is just like the real world, and everything that exists in the real world exists on the internet as well. So there's some somewhat unsavory things that exist on the net.
Yeah, we had a lot of fuss a while ago about pornography on the internet, didn't we?
Absolutely, and it exists out there, as well as people with questionable moral character who children need to be protected from to some degree. The place that protection needs to come from is from the parents of the children. They need to become aware enough of computers and what all goes on the internet so that they can use whatever means they feel are appropriate to protect their children from it. I'm not advocating censorship of the net. I don't believe in it as a concept. What I am advocating is parental attention.
There are also technical fixes. We've got this V-chip thing for television. I suppose something comparable is available or will be available with regard to internet.
There is software that exists, that already exists, and it's being improved rapidly as time goes on. That, for example, there's a program called Net Nanny. There's Cyber Patrol, which is one of the better.
Net Nanny?
Net Nanny, absolutely.
Well named.
There's actually 20 or 30 programs out there that are designed specifically for the purpose of protecting sensitive people, not just children, adults who are sensitive to material that they don't want to accidentally run into, so that children can freely roam the net without worrying too much about running into areas that are going to be of concern to their parents. The software is improving as time goes on, and I think as long as parents are being aware of what their children are doing on the net.
I'll tell you another thing I'm worried about. To continue personalizing just a bit, and it's a version of, or it's an extension of something I was saying earlier. Whatever is right or wrong about me and my life history, I have been a reader, and reading means a lot to me. My son is a reader, and is quite literate and is quite skilled in language. I do wonder and I do worry about kids growing now and living off the screen as much as they do and not really reading books as much as once they did. I find that, for example, with my own undergraduate students at university, even now, that they're fairly pre-literate, so to speak. They know how to read, but they don't read much. They've read, regular listeners to this program have heard me complain about this 1,000 times. They haven't read any of the great books. Most of them haven't. And one isn't very clear that, apart from being force-fed that sort of reading during college, they ever will again. The lure of the screen, both television and, of course, now computer, seems to me in some ways working against the main tradition of literacy, which has been characteristic of and a great glory of Western society. What, if anything, should we do about that?
I'm not sure what we can do about that, honestly, Milt.
Just take it as a...
to a certain extent, it's the responsibility of the school systems to make sure that part of the educational process is the teaching of the classics. I think that's valuable for anyone who's growing up.
Or just teaching the joy of reading, or rather giving them the joy of reading.
Absolutely.
How do you do that in this world?
I think that's something that happens at home.
I don't know. I don't think that it would be that different from how you would have taught the love of the classics in previous generations. Again, I believe that with computer technology and the internet technology, you're really adding on something versus replacing it. I really don't feel that being an avid computer user and being an avid reader of traditional media, those things are not mutually exclusive. I know plenty of people who love to do both. I'm one of those too. And I think that it's something that you would have to teach children in a way that you would always have taught them to love to read and to read books. But this is something that you would teach them also to do.
Do you and Neil have kids?
No.
Yet?
Not yet.
Have you thought about how you're going to handle this when you have kids?
Actually, I have a one-year-old niece who loves to dive into the computer screen, and she also...
At the age of one?
Yes, and her favorite toy, though, is little books that she carries around. So she loves little physical hardcover books. And she also loves the computer screen. So I don't think either of those are going to be a problem.
We go back to the phones, 591-7200, the number, and you are on the air. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, sir.
I'm a Compuserve user, and I connected to the internet about a year ago. So for the gentleman who was having questions about that, it took me a couple of weeks, and it was a little bit like going to the hardware store. But I started with an Internet New Users Forum in Compuserve. And when I got into that forum, they have many, many files this gentleman can look at, whether he's got a Macintosh or he's got an IBM compatible. And it will give him a list of things you need to do. There's little software programs you have to use, point-to-point contact, configuration files, kind of recipes to hook up to it. This was a year ago, so it might be much easier today. But I a year ago, downloaded Netscape from Compuserve during a special, and then it told me how to configure my Macintosh so that when I ultimately had it all connected in a couple weeks of working on it, I would get out of Compuserve, and then when I call up my Netscape, it had the instructions to use my Compuserve number to log on through Netscape, and I don't even see my Compuserve screens. So
I would be very surprised if there weren't a very easy way to do it on the...
Well, I was surprised too, and the last time I looked, there was an internet logo on my frequent, where you get the recipe of a variety of things. I clicked on that, and it was just like you said. It was all information about the internet, but it wasn't a quick connect, so that was kind of surprising to me.
Well, I personally have nothing against CompuServe, but my recommendation in that case might be to try America
Online.
Internet.
Right.
America Online on the opening page has an internet icon you can click.
Go right
into it. Turn you directly into the internet.
Now, on CompuServe, I have used that in my business all over the world, and it has been a wonderful connect. for me.
Yes.
Because I can go to any city, whether it's Beijing or London, and find a local Compuserve number or an information access number and log in to get my email, and it's just been absolutely phenomenal. And I'm embarrassed to say I'm still at 2,400 baud, so maybe that's why I can still get on.
Ouch.
You and millions of other people.
Yeah, I guess so.
Compuserve has been around for a very long time. They were one of the first online services. Actually, I think they were the first. And
I think I'd almost be out of business if I didn't have my email.
especially for business uses, Compuserve is absolutely a useful service. There's no question about that.
Yes.
They may not be the easiest to use, but they definitely have their value.
So good luck to that gentleman on his way to the
Thank you
hardware
for
store.
calling and helping us.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
591-7200. The number, again, a few lines available if you've been trying to reach us. And you have just reached us. Good evening.
Hi. I have a situation that I hope you can help me with, and that is that I would like to create a website, and I'd like to have people access data that I created in a database program, and also look at documents that I created in a word processing program, even though those are different languages than what the Internet uses. And I wonder if that's possible.
You've actually picked a very good time to talk about that. Until recently, it was very difficult because you would have been compelled to take all the content from your word processing document and copy it onto something that would create a web page and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now it's much easier. Most of the word processors come with software, or you can get a software plug-in for them, either cheap or either free or very cheap, to take the content out in the format that makes it a worldwide web page. The same thing with databases. The Digital Chicago Trade Directory is actually a good example if you want to find an advertiser. You know what that music is? That's coming out of the computer.
Oh, explain to us. What have you done?
It's something that happens by surprise when you start downloading a sound file, and all of a sudden it pops up a minute later and starts playing. This is actually the background of somebody's website, where this page is set up so that as you start to go look at their web page, the music starts playing in the background. And I couldn't even tell you the title of it. It's a company called Higgs America that happens to have sound in their background.
Now, what other selections does it have? What's available to us now?
This is somebody who's just put some sound in as a sort of a background noise. And so we don't know exactly what they have. It might be that you go to a different one of their pages and a different sound starts playing. That's one of the sort of surprises you get. They have a little button here that talks about music and copyrights. While I pull that up, though, the answer to the other question about databases is probably one of the keys that's driving people onto the web, and that is you can take a collection of information, like in Digital Chicago, the list of all the companies around Chicago that can help you, or like at Federal Express, the list of all the airbill numbers for the packages they're sending right now, and tie that into the web using, depending on which database program you're using, there are pieces of software that will let you plug that into the web pretty easily. And then somebody can go in and search your website, search your database through your website. In the case of FedEx, they've stopped people from having to call up on their 800 number and ask, where's my package? Because you can go onto their website and see it for yourself from your desktop computer.
Same thing with UPS now as well.
That's right.
So I would have to contact the software people then.
Yeah, what database is it offhand?
Well, I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I'm just contemplating doing this, and I'm trying to figure out how to put it all together and if I can indeed do it.
Are you on a Mac or Windows?
Windows.
Okay.
Are you saying that you want the database to actually be on the site, or you want to be able to have people pull it down and use it for their own?
Yeah, I would like to have people pull it down without having to make separate web pages and everything out of it. I would just like it to stay in the database program and then create word processing files and have them look at that without making web pages and everything,
That can
separate
be
web
done.
addresses.
That can easily be done. The database program that you're going to want to use is going to depend on what your web server can run. So if you're using web space on an internet service provider's web server, then you're going to want to contact them and find out what database software do you have available, and then you would work with them to get it in that format so that it can be searched on their server.
Okay, and then people coming in to look at the website, they wouldn't need any special kind of program to do that, to look at it then, would they?
No, you're either going to need to figure out or work with somebody who does that sort of web page development, how to tie it to your database, but that can be easily done. And yes, the end user who visits your website, they just see a regular web page and they enter, just like you would go to a search engine and type in something that you wanted to search for and click submit, they do it the same way.
Sir, thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Now, let's get a report from the laptop here. You originally were searching for something the Tribune has put together of recorded speeches from the recent Democratic convention. That you didn't get at that. Why not?
We didn't get at it, and it's one of those things where the internet's kind of fun to do live because you do a live demonstration, you do something live on the radio, and usually things work pretty well, but sometimes in this case we don't have the right software on the computer, and I thought I pulled it down and put it in, but it didn't work. It's the kind of thing where if you actually sat and paid attention to it for 10 or 15 minutes, we could probably get it working properly.
But suddenly this music appeared. I still don't understand why. And
I took you to a page where there's music in the background because what people are finding is as the software gets more and more sophisticated, as these folks at Netscape come out with newer browser programs, more and more stuff can happen that's a little more natural, interactive. For my newspaper students, we talk about how the internet was useless until the World Wide Web came along because we communicate in pages, a page being a designed collection of information with a headline, pictures. We walk you down the page in sort of a logical order, we hope. And
now, what are you on right now?
I'm in Netscape looking at actually Netscape's own site because we're taking a guess that they have some samples of some of the sound stuff as well. The thing about being able to add sound to a page, for instance, is that you don't want to have to click on a button and say, now play me the sound. If I'm bringing up something about a composer, I'd like to hear that composer's music in the background. I'd like to see a picture of that composer.
I'd love to have that before we finish tonight. We only have about 7 minutes left.
We're taking a good shot at it here.
So you're under a real challenge as we go back to the telephones, and here is the next caller. Good evening.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I only got to hear part of your program on my driving home tonight, and was wondering if anybody has discussed the problems of viruses being spread throughout the internet.
No, that's a very useful question.
I'm with a information technology company, and we've actually formed almost a whole separate division just in working with viruses, not necessarily just with the internet, but I know there are some new programs out there. IBM has just come out with a new update to their antivirus program that will detect files being downloaded from the internet.
Let me understand this, Jennifer. A virus is always somehow an invention put into the internet by a malign human being. Is that the case?
Well, malign or either a prankster.
Or a prankster.
Right.
Yeah. But it's somebody trying to screw up the works, in effect.
Yeah, or another classic model is the 14-year-old who wants to show off his programming skills. But the internet, the fact, when people use commercial online services and like America Online and Compuserve and Prodigy before they used the internet widely, one of the things you could count on from that commercial online service is that they would screen and make sure that all the software that they posted on that service was virus-free. And that's a real service. Now, when you access the internet directly, there are many, many more files available than were on those services.
For the confused, though, what is a virus? How do you make a virus and get it onto the internet?
A virus is a software program which attaches itself to another software program. So the idea is that you would download some software from the internet which would have would be infected, would have this rogue software program that would then, when you ran the software that you thought you were downloading, when you ran that on your computer, it would infect your files, your software on your computer, and cause you any number of kinds of problems, depending on what it was supposed to do.
Some of them are not really dangerous, as Jennifer was saying. Some of them are just pranks. One of the viruses just put up a message on your screen basically saying, scratch this itch, or something like that, just to let you know that they've put something on your system that you didn't intend to put on the system, and just letting you know that, haha, I've done this to your system. Other viruses can be a lot more insidious and can do significant damage to your computer, or not generally the hardware, but to the software that's on your computer. The Harry virus that was recently released, and I haven't seen any results on how many people actually got tagged by it, but
very few.
Very few were actually hurt by it, although a lot of people spent a lot of effort trying to protect from it.
What was it? The Harry virus?
Harry virus, yeah.
What did it do?
The intention was if the virus infected your computer and was successful in what it was trying to do, what it would actually do is delete your hard drive. In other words, it would wipe out all the information that you had on your system.
It was supposed to have been deployed on August 22nd.
August 22nd, and again on September 22nd. That's correct. That's correct.
By whom? Do we know anything about its source?
They said it was somebody in Australia or New Zealand, maybe.
That was where it was first noticed, anyway.
Yeah. It really underscores the fact that all the stuff on your computer could disappear any time if the machinery fails. A hard disk is just a collection of information. If the machine fails, if the hard disk actually self-destructs, your data's gone anyway. If you keep good backup copies of it, and then if a virus sneaks in and does something, it won't be a problem.
One area we found a lot of activity, or some increase in activity, is in the Word and Excel macro viruses that are being attached in the files in email, for example.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Are there currently any email viruses that have been determined are not hoaxes that are out there? See, part of the problem is a lot of the viruses that people hear about don't really exist. They're
For the record, the Good Times virus does not exist.
Right. For example, the Good Times virus.
That one keeps coming back over and over.
Exactly. You keep hearing about it on the internet and reading about it on online services.
What is it supposed to be?
It was another virus that was supposed to do damage to your hard drive, I believe. But it was,
if you received an email message titled Good Times, and if you opened it and read it, you would, all sorts of bad things would happen.
It was supposed to be, what was unique about it was supposed to be able to travel in email, which doesn't really exist.
This is rather like persistent folklore or urban legends. There's an awful lot of this kind of
absolutely
rumors
on the internet.
Yeah. We are almost out of time. I must take a moment to talk about programs to come. Monica Crowley was Richard Nixon's last amanuensis, more or less, a young woman who worked as his secretary, confidant, and editor for the last few years of Richard Nixon's life. She has now done a book titled Nixon Off the Record, and she will be our guest tomorrow after an early Cubs game. On Friday, again, after an early Cubs game, Robert Thayer, author of the new book, The Origin of Everyday Moods. And we are just about a minute and a half away from the end. What urgent thing were you planning to say that you haven't had a chance to say yet?
Well, I just wanted to mention that most of the local libraries now have internet training courses, either free or very low cost, and they're very popular. Also, the user groups are doing a great job of internet training. The largest Chicago user group, Chicago Computer Society, has partnered with Chicago Public Library, and they're doing some really great programs. So I would urge people to check with the user groups in their local libraries for low-cost training.
We've had two very valuable services represented here tonight, namely the magazine Digital Chicago and the service Cyber Solutions. And I would invite the proprietors of both of those to once again give the contact points, whether phone numbers or email codes.
Okay, Digital Chicago phone is 847-439-6575. We can be reached via email at info at the @digitalshy.com. And our website is at www.digitalshy.com.
And Cyber Solutions?
Our phone number is 847-699-2086, and I can be reached on email at CoreyM, COREYM, @interaccess.com. And Neil Chase is still chasing music on his laptop, but we didn't quite make that tonight.
We didn't quite make it. We need a couple more little pieces on here to make it all work, and we'll probably start playing as soon as we're done with the show.
Undoubtedly. It's been very informative and a good deal of fun for me. In fact, I thank you most sincerely for joining us. Corey May, Jennifer Dees, and Neil Chase have been our guests. We wind down. There's something from the computer all of a sudden, but it is saying good night as well, and we will be with you again tomorrow at 9.
This is Radio 720, WGN Chicago. The information you need and a lot more. What's going on?
Fran is a large and brutal storm, and she is not to be trifled with in any way, shape, fashion, or form.
The missile strikes that were conducted over the last few days have been successful. The targets were either destroyed or sufficiently damaged so that we can say that our mission has been achieved.
Voices from two of tonight's top stories in WGN News at 11. Brought to you by your local Chevy Geo dealers. Good people to know when you're looking for a good car value. Good evening, I'm Lyle Dean. Our headline story after Stacy Friedman looks at traffic.
Thank you, Lyle, and good evening. Westbound on the Eisenhower at Route 83, crews are finishing up with an earlier car fire, seeing a minor delay there. Outbound Kennedy, we've got construction in the left lane at Madison until midnight, at which time this work will take out the two left lanes until 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm Stacy Friedman, WGN Traffic Central.
We're getting out of here. I'm not a hero. I'm no hero. I'm not going to deal with that.
That's one South Carolina resident's reaction to the hurricane warning for parts of the southern Atlantic coast and to the plea by South Carolina Governor David Beasley.
This morning, I declared a state of emergency in our state. asking that all residents of beachfront property and barrier islands along our coast voluntarily move inland. Thankfully, we've been getting good reports that a great many people are following our advice and are in the process of relocating.
Beasley's message was short and not very sweet.
Fran is a large and brutal storm, and she is not to be trifled with in any way, shape, fashion, or form.
At the National Hurricane Center, forecaster Max Mayfield says the warnings